My deadlift was weak, just like yours, for years. I got stuck in that 4 to 5 plate range for a long time. I had horrible technique, I kept tweaking my back, the deadlift exhausted me all the time, and I could never make any progress. Nowadays, I can deadlift 300 kilos on the road to 700 pounds. I've coached lots of lifters to build really strong deadlifts, including a 310 kilo deadlift. And a big part of that progress is having efficient deadlift technique. In this video, I'm going to tell you all of the common mistakes that you're probably making in your deadlift. I'll tell you exactly how to fix them so that you can go on to build a huge deadlift as well. If you'd like me to personally have a look at your deadlift, review your technique, tell you what to do, and construct a program based on your weaknesses, top link in the description. You can hire me as your personal strength coach, or a second link if you just want some good strength training programs to go and blow up your deadlift. So let's get straight into it. I have trained for over 10 years. I've built a 300 kilo deadlift, and I have coached hundreds, if not thousands of lifters to get really strong in the deadlift. I have coached a bunch of 5, 6, and even 7 plate deadlifts, okay, even in national level powerlifters. And I'm going to tell you over my years of coaching the most common deadlift mistakes that I've seen. I'll give you solutions. You can literally go implement them today in your training and build a stronger deadlift. So let's get straight into them. So the most common mistake that I see by far, this is number one in intermediate guys just like you, is only deadlifting once per week. Now this isn't like technically a technique mistake per se, but how good do you think your deadlift technique is going to be if you're only deadlifting once a week? Now, I understand why you only deadlift once a week, because you come from traditional intermediate programming like 5-3-1, 5x5, Texas method, whatever Mark Rippetoe is saying nowadays. And all these people have told you that train insane, you have to train really hard, every set needs to be heavy to be productive, do your fives and stuff like that, right? Because of that, you can only deadlift once a week, and you have to wait all the way until the next week to recover until you can deadlift again, because the deadlift beats you up. What if I told you that in order to get better at deadlifting, you need to deadlift more? Just like any other sport in the world, literally take your pick, football, soccer, rugby, tennis, cricket. Those athletes, they understand that if they want to be really proficient at their sport, really skilled, they need to do the movements often. You are not going to get really good at deadlifting once a week for most of you. Just across the board, I've not seen many really big deadlifters once a week. And someone's going to come in and say, oh, but Ed Cohn, yes, there are genetically 1%ers who will get there. But that's not you. You wouldn't be watching this video if you were a genetic elite freak. You'd be pulling 700 pounds for reps without taking my advice. So I would recommend that for the majority of you, you deadlift 2 times a week. Now, take your one deadlift day that you do now, the really hard one that you do is probably for like a 5x5, or maybe you do a top set back off approach. Scale it down a bit. Do a top set, 1 to 3 reps, 80% and above. That's your heavy set for the day. That's the set where you can go all out a bit. Don't go to failure, but you can go a bit heavier. Then do some back offs, maybe 3 or 4 sets in the 60 to 75% range. Start at 60%, see how you do. If it's too light, scale it up a little bit. Now, with that reduced deadlift day, add in a secondary day. At first, it can just be a Romanian deadlift. 2 to 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps, capped at an RPE 8. That can be your secondary deadlift. You're now pulling twice a week, and if you find that you start to see good results, lean further in that direction. Swap that RDL out for maybe just another deadlift, or a pause deadlift, or something like that. Make it lighter than the primary deadlift, but still, then you're finally deadlifting twice a week. You'll improve your deadlifting skill, and you'll start to get stronger on the deadlift. Technique will naturally improve without you needing to use any cues, accessories, or any of the other tips in this video. So that's the first thing I would recommend, is deadlift twice per week, okay? For most of you. Now, mistake number 2 that I see, this one's very common as well, and these kind of will actually go into deadlift technique specifically, is yanking on the barbell or not pulling slack. Now, I can understand why a lot of you don't know how to take the slack out of the bar, because I've seen a bunch of videos on it, and to be honest, the influencers that I've seen discuss it, the fitness people, they make it so complicated. They're talking about all these different things and cues. I didn't even understand half of them, to be honest. So let me tell you an easy way to kind of take the slack out of the bar and explain what I actually mean. So what I mean by taking the slack out of the bar, when most of you deadlift, the bar is kind of taking the slack out of you. It's yanking you around, you're swaying back and forth, you're getting pulled out of position. You need to command the bar. You need to be like in control of the bar and taking the slack out of it, not having it take the slack out of you, okay? So a really easy way that I teach slack pull and I teach my clients how to take the slack out of the bar is go through your setup, get set up to lift the bar, go down, grab onto the bar. Now, before you lift the bar, I want you to bend the bar up as high as you possibly can. So bend, 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 keep pulling it, pulling it, pulling it until you feel like it's literally, the plates are quivering and it's about to leave the floor. So literally bend it up as high as you can without the plates leaving the floor. At this point, you should be really tight, like you feel heavy in your hands and your feet. The plates are ready to spring off the floor. And then you just push your feet into the floor and lift the bar. You've taken the slack out, completed the rep, and then the bar won't be swinging you around and pulling you out of position, okay? So don't think about it being a pull. You just need to pull up on the bar, bend, 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 bend. The plates are about to leave the floor, they're quivering, and then we lift the bar by pushing the feet into the floor, okay? Not by pulling, because if you pull, you're gonna yank on it. So bend it up until the plates are quivering and then push the feet into the floor to lift the bar off the floor, okay? That's a really simple way how to take the slack out of the bar, and it will ensure that you aren't getting thrown out of position by the barbell. The next mistake that I see is excessive spinal flexion. Now, I'll kind of give a disclaimer here that spinal flexion is not dangerous or uniquely injurious. We don't have any evidence to suggest that rounding your back when you deadlift is going to get you hurt. We even have studies to suggest that the back can be injured when the spine is neutral. Disc herniations and stuff like that can happen. We even have studies where the researchers will literally put markers anatomically on the participants on their spine. They will tell them, do not round your back whatever you do, and they still round their back because you just physically can't not let it happen. Your spine flexes, extends, rotates, twists, and all these different things when you lift, but I don't want it to be excessive. Now, the reason is, a lot of you guys, you intermediate guys, in my previous point, you don't take the slack out of the bar. Because of that, you're very loose and the bar takes the slack out of you. And what often happens is you pull with a really rounded back, like really excessive. So let's imagine you're pulling like this. You're in loads of spinal flexion. What happens when you get to the top of the lift? You get stuck like this and you can't stand up or lock out because you need to go through such a large range of motion to uncoil your spine and stand up. You're trying to go from like this position to all the way like this to uncoil your spine. Whereas if you just started a little bit straighter, you'd barely have to do anything to stand up and lock out. And I used to have this problem all the time because I was one of those pullers who would just like grip and rip. I still do to a degree, but I'm way better at setting my back now. And I'd always get stuck at the knees or something. And I was like, oh, I've got a weak lockout. I need to do hip thrusts or rack pulls or something. And I guarantee you've done that before. When in reality, your start position is just trash. You're pulling with a really rounded spine and then you can't uncoil it to stand up. So first thing I would say is take the slack out of the bar, like I mentioned in my previous point, and improve your start position. You can do that automatically by slowing down and taking the slack out of the bar. Also, I would recommend something like a pause deadlift in this case, because a pause deadlift is better because it brings your attention to how to fix the issue yourself and self-organize your body in a better position. I can tell you don't round your back, but it's really hard to like force you to actually do it and feel it. Whereas if you do a pause deadlift, when you break the bar off the floor, if you're really rounded, straight away you're gonna think, shit, like that feels really hard. And if I flatten my back out a little bit, that feels easier. And then you'll just start like self-organizing yourself to do it. It's a really nice just way of cueing you as an individual to fix it yourself. So yeah, I would use a pause deadlift and I would learn to take the slack out of the bar like in my previous point. The next mistake that I often see, this one's kind of related, and I'm willing to bet that at least 50% of you watching this video do this mistake. It is having the head down when you deadlift. So you're at the start of the lift and you're probably looking like this when you deadlift. I'm pretty sure Starting Strength and a few of the other intermediate guys teach this, but yeah, in this position with the head down. Same thing again, when you have the head down, the upper back and the rest of the spine follows and it flexes over, and then it makes it really hard to lock out because you can't uncoil the spine. Whereas if you just pitch your chin up a little bit, your upper back follows and you'll be more extended. It will be way easier to lock out. So for me personally, I cue a lot of my lifters to get the head up a bit. Now you don't need to be like this, like craning the neck up. Head position is very individual, but in general, I would recommend that you just lift the chin a little bit, I personally look out about 6 feet in front of me. So I like to imagine that I'm at a powerlifting meet because I'm a weirdo. And there's like the head judge is sat in front of me on a chair about 6 feet away, and I'm like looking him in the eye. I'll often, like if I'm in a public gym, I'll just like pick a spot on the wall and just stare at it, and it will keep my head and eyes in the same position instead of looking down and then getting stuck at lockout and really kind of caved over. Okay, so that one will improve drastically, and it's such an easy fix as well. Like you just literally need to just lift your head a little bit and then your lockout will improve. Next one, this is the final mistake that I see, is not using the legs. Too many guys are relying all on their back, or they'll get set up at the bottom position, the knees will like extend straight away, the hips will shoot back, and then they're doing like a stiff leg deadlift and they got to rely entirely on their back to complete the lift. And this one will often contribute to lockout issues again, and the bar kind of getting stapled at your knees. So what I would recommend that you do, obviously besides number one, which is just to be a bit more patient off the floor, number two is to cue yourself to leg press the floor down, or think about staying in your quads. And I've managed to fix this one with a few of my lifters by actually having them do a leg press as their deadlift warm up, or maybe even like do a set of leg press like between deadlift sets, just to pattern and cue it in their mind. So you can do some leg press for your warm up, then do a deadlift set, and it will keep it fresh in your mind. Now, I am not, and I want to be very clear about this, not telling you to squat the weight off the floor. So many PTs teach this as terrible advice. You don't want to drop the hips and squat the bar off the floor. You want to keep the hips actually higher than you think. Now, I've got a separate video on deadlift technique that I'll link somewhere, but I do want you to stay in your quads a little bit more. Now, a really easy way to kind of tell if you've got the right degree of knee flexion and if your hips are at the correct height is to line your knees up with the inside pits of your elbows here. So at the bottom of the deadlift, let me just kind of, I don't want to smash my camera here. So at the bottom of the deadlift, I want your, I'm going to show you like this. Your knee should line up with the inside pit of your elbow right there, okay? If the knee is forward of the elbow, your hips are too low, the knees are too bent. If it's way behind like this, then the hips are way too high, you're doing a stiff leg deadlift. I don't see that scenario very often. It's usually that people drop their hips too low, but that's a nice little like hack to see if your hips and knees are at the correct height. Then you can just do some leg presses between sets, and that will kind of cue and pattern it and just remind yourself to stay in the quads and use the legs. So if you take anything from this video, stop trying to copy your favorite lifters' deadlifts. You probably watch some of the top deadlifters in the world, you try and kind of copy their approach, and it won't work for you because you're built differently. All of us have individual limb lengths, anthropometry and stuff like that. So adapt your deadlift based on your individual needs. There are no right or wrong deadlift techniques. We do have a few like general principles that you want to stick to. So we want a vertical straight bar path. We want the bar balanced over the midfoot. We want the shoulders just in front of the bar. We want the bar to stay on the shins. As long as you kind of meet those criteria and it feels strong, powerful, and you're not hurting yourself quite often, your technique's probably fine, and then you can just adapt a few of these cues that I've given you based on this video. And if you'd like me to personally do a review of your deadlift, I'll tell you what to fix, I'll tell you which accessories we should put in your program. Top link in the description, hire me as your coach, or second link to go follow my deadlift programs. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that it helps you to build a monster deadlift. Take some of the tips that I've given you, apply them straight into your training, and then if you have any questions, comments and stuff like that, post them in the comments section down below. You can go and run my free training program. You compare that with some of the deadlift advice here and go on to outpull me in the next few years and then come back and tell me how strong you've got. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, I'll catch you in the next video.